implemented new crypto rules where unless you're buying basically Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin, you have an annual buy limit of $30,000 Canadian a year.
Hmm.
It's so stupid, but it's only in certain
It's
provinces.
and it's just on buying. Is there like a restriction on selling it?
No, no. In
Yeah.
fact, I don't think they care if you sell it because then technically you have to declare it and they get their tax, right?
Right, because I feel
But
like
Exactly.
the
yeah,
sales side of thing would be the only way they can like really track it.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I mean, I don't skirt the law, but I also haven't really bothered to take out any money for my crypto, so I haven't ever paid anything on it. But like it's just weird that I live in Quebec, so I'm not impacted. I can buy as much of anything as I want. But if I move 25 minutes to the west and go into Ontario, all of a sudden I have an annual limit of 30,000 Canadian that I can buy. It's
Hmm.
just stupid.
That
So,
is, well, look, if you want to get into what it's like to have state to state politics,
oh my
please,
God.
please let us know. We've got 50 of them where everyone has a different opinion on what
I
should
know.
be.
I don't. I literally. I sometimes I don't know how you guys do it. Like I don't know how between the local, the state, and like I go to New York State and I'll pay taxes at some place, and then I'll go like 3 blocks away and I pay different taxes. And I'm like, I ask them, I'm like, how come I'm paying less taxes here? And they're like, oh, you're in a different county, so you pay less sales tax. It's bizarre. Like I don't get
Yeah.
that, but whatever. I don't. I'm Canadian. I don't understand a lot of stuff.
My buddy drives like 10 minutes north to get because DraftKings the app doesn't even work in Massachusetts, so he just gets to New Hampshire and it's good to go.
Oh yeah, go up to Nashua and you can do all sorts of crazy shit.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, interesting. Well, something that we do know a lot about is Web3 stuff, right? Um,
We do.
and I guess one of the first things that I wanted to like chat about because I've been seeing it like everywhere is, and I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but this, oh wow, so this like in OBS resizes with the window. But like, so this graph, right? And I know it's been posted like all over. Oh no, Ben, I lost you now. All over like a bunch of like social media sites, especially like it's definitely making the rounds on like LinkedIn, but it's a bunch of like data pulled from like Dune Analytics that shows really how much some of these like crypto projects have been making for some of the bigger brands out there, and it's pretty like fascinating to see, because if you look at it, right, like Nike's done what 93 million in primary sales, 92 million in royalties, but 1.3 billion dollars in secondary volume. Like
Yeah.
that's, and like I don't know if this is made up. I feel like this has got to be made up of a lot of the sneaker stuff, right? Like the artifact sneakers.
I think so. I mean, it's huge. It's
Oh, so it's
that's a
all
lot.
these. So it's the Clone X, the Monolith, the Vials, the Crypto Kicks, the Pods. Ah, I see what they did. Yeah. So I guess
One
majority
is
of the transactions is the Clone X, eh?
yeah. I know Artifacts has been getting up there, but and I don't know
Yeah.
if they included it before they bought it or not. So
Yeah, I don't know either. But what's interesting about this though is that looking at at this gap, right? So like the leaders that if we're looking at just like you know total revenue, I don't even want to talk about like secondary volume, but I mean actually let's talk about it, right? So if we're talking about secondary volume, 1.3 billion is like so incredibly much, like so much more than even the number two at like a 175 million. And Adidas has 51 transaction compared to Nike's 67, but basically over 10,000 transactions Nike did an additional $1 billion, if not more.
Yeah, 1.15 billion.
1.15 billion more. Like I need to do some more investigating into this, but I'd love to like see like a little bit more into like how they were able to do that, right? Like how they were able to do it. I guess here's a great thing is that number of distinct buyers basically goes up over time, right?
Right.
And there was another one too that I wanted that they didn't have it up here. But so this site, Dune, is amazing, by the way. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at it or not. But for the CloneX, right, like being able to break down, like, the people that were doing it, was this their first mint? Was this their second, 3, 4th, basically where they're at. And they had a large proportion that this was their first time doing it. And then people below 40 transactions in total made up basically the majority of their first time or below 40. And you don't really see that through some of these, like some of these projects, like the Budweiser one, which again is interesting, right? Like if you're thinking about Budweiser and they're targeting like a certain consumer, you would think that it would probably not be non-crypto. It would be non-crypto native users because Budweiser brand, I don't think really lends itself to like crypto native people. I don't know. I could be wrong. But that the majority of these were not even the. There's very few first-time transactions.
Have you seen the Budweiser, their Budverse?
The Budweiser Budverse?
Yeah, I just
No.
was looking at yesterday because Josh was asking me some questions about a different beer, and so I found the Budverse, and I mean they have a whole. I knew that they did a couple of drops and some things like their heritage cans and
Yeah.
stuff, but they have a whole system. They just did a drop for their horses, like their Clydesdales, and it
Yeah.
sold out like immediately. It was insane.
Really?
Yeah, they're like I had no idea that Budweiser was that integrated into doing now into doing NFTs and stuff. They have like a whole music system for up and coming artists now to create NFTs.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. Looking at the list and I think it's interesting some of the stuff you brought up. But I mentioned this before in one of our channels on Slack. But Pepsi mic drop, and I've been following that since it happened. They gave them away,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't make any income off of it. All they did was create this and drop them out there. And there's been over 11 million in secondary volume for free NFTs. Now, I understand that it may not have a huge sell right now, like there's not a lot of trading and stuff on there, but there is obviously enough interest for these 3,000 plus NFTs that were given away for free,
Right.
that there's $11 million in sell after it, which, obviously it's not huge numbers compared to some of these other ones, but I think that's interesting that, a company can still go out and do something for a brand engagement, brand awareness community,
Mm-hmm.
not expecting like to be a revenue driver.
Right.
Because, honestly, we had this discussion, $11 million for Pepsi. I mean, I don't think they give a shit, right?
Right.
About
Sure.
dollars. I mean, come on. But, they're doing this and they got a huge bunch of traction, obviously, if they're getting $11 million in secondary sales just
Yeah.
free. I think that that's a great indication of what a company can do without being focused on revenue only. Now, that's easy to say when you're looking at 1 point whatever billion dollars that Nike's selling and driving that, and it's hard to ignore that. But I think there's opportunities for both ends of the spectrum.
But so what you're saying is interesting about is the fact that they gave them away for free.
Yeah.
And then they make the money off the sale. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about that, and from the talk with Josh Lawler, is that like one of the big things that you can do as a business to help avoid getting into any tiffs with the SEC is that whenever you're selling NFTs, you have like if you explicitly make it like very very known that like if you're buying this, you're buying it for the utility. You're not like, this is in no way an investment vehicle whatsoever. Like even all the way down, Josh was mentioning, like all the way down to letting like your moderators in Discord know that if anyone starts talking about like pumping the floor, sweep the floor, you know, we're going to get these prices high, like you have to squash that immediately, because Discord is all like public domain area. So if you go to court or whatever, they're going to pull all of those logs, and like guaranteed, you know, there's a bunch of like, you know, Web3 degens in there. Like and it's every single project that I've literally ever been a part of, but they're all in like, you know, the holder channel, like sweep the floor, pump it up to the moon. You're like, oh gosh, here we go. Now it has officially turned into a securities. But doing it as a business and giving away for free, like you said, is a great way to kind of avoid that, right? Because then you're not really selling anything. You're just giving away something for free. And again, I don't know if that pushes something into securities laws beyond what actually selling it for revenue or premium out of the gate would be. But it's definitely a good point. And I do agree that like looking at it from a revenue model of like secondary transactions is pretty interesting indeed.
Yeah, what do you think about like Pepsi just giving them away for free versus Taco Bell selling them for like $2 or whatever? They basically gave them away for free, but like you're saying with the, you know, you start to get into regulation, there is a bit of a difference.
Yeah, my point. I think it's difficult if they start getting into this regulation area like Corey's talking about for $1.79. Now I understand the hype and what they're doing, and they're kind of doing it, you know, where you're buying that and then I think you're getting a taco or something like that with it. And I get that, and maybe they can spin that as they're not buying a NFT, they're buying a taco and they get the NFT with it or whatever, and that's fine. I love the idea of what Taco Bell is doing with their NFTs and selling them for that price of the taco and stuff, but I'm not sure if they get into the problems with you know, tax stuff, how smart that will end up being.
Yeah, and like, you know, the other side too that's interesting about looking at NFTs from like a lower price point is that, like, one, do I think that NFTs are going to drop in price in the future? Yes, I believe that it's like some point, like 90% of NFT sales and secondary transaction volume is going to go through, you know, I'll call it like air quotes NFT now, but digital, you know, NFTs that won't be called NFTs in the future that are actually really cheap. And are meant to be transactional and not like live in perpetuity, right? So if you get a ticket for, you know, a concert or a fair, right, or something that like might be lower volume, but you use it once and then it's kind of done, I think that's going to get to the point where things are much higher. So if you look at Taco Bell offering something out for like $2, I think that concept of having cheap NFTs is going to definitely be the way of the future. Now, what I think is interesting about doing that right now, though, which makes it kind of hard, is that like the friction to onboard is really, and like the hurdle to onboard someone into that, it's so difficult. It's like, is it worth it to sell a $2 asset? And I think that becomes like the difficult part, right? Like there is no easy way. There is no like really holistic solution to like keep your wallet like top of mind. Like there's just not enough NFT functionality out there. And that's why I always feel weird. Like it, again, when I look at like these stats from, you know, from like the Dune Analytics side, like, you know, a majority of these projects, like for them being like first time buyers, like they're like statistically like really low, right? And so again, I think that if you're like launching an NFT now and you're trying to give it away for free, you better make damn well sure that ability for users to like claim it and or access it has got to be super easy. Because if you give it away for $2 or if you give it away for free and it's like, this is hard in any way, it's like, I don't give a fuck. It was free. It was $2. Like I'm not going to go write down a 30-word, you know, mnemonic just to remember my wallet address if I lose it. However, if I do launch something that's like $4.99 or $5.99, then I think that cost to entry warrants someone like learning and like putting in some time to acquire the asset. And I feel like that's like such a weird like dichotomy right now when you're going into like sensitivity analysis or like pricing design for projects. It's what are all of these other factors, I think, beyond just will people pay for it?
Yeah.
And then I have no clue. I have no clue on how it impacts if it's a security or not. So that is, I gotta add the big banner, like no legal advice was given in this call.
Yeah, no, I find these numbers very interesting. A lot, like you said, a lot of different reasons, and I'm interested to see how different businesses come up with different outlooks and theories and aspects, and just generally outlay of how they're going to connect with the people with NFT systems. Like, are they going to focus on cost and focus on making it scarce and try to drive prices, or are they going to try to keep them low, as you said, and try to drive community engagement? Because I still feel like there's this overwhelming question of, okay, well, how much money are we going to make on doing an NFT first drop?
Right.
And I'm really hoping that sooner or later that outlook changes, so that it becomes, as you said, more of of like, okay, well, how can we use this to build our business, not make revenue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like that's like the weird part, right? And especially like as we're talking to to large brands about this, like the question always does come up of like, what should we sell for the primary sale price? And like, and so, and this is where I think that it gets like nuancy with like enterprise sales, right? Is that if you pitch this into an enterprise and you're like, hey, we should do this NFT project, let's say it's going to cost us $150,000 to build, $150,000 to do marketing, to really put the message out there and like operate, let's say for 6 months, or a year, right? So let's say that we're all in for $300,000. Like a CFO is going to sit there and look at it and say, okay, well, like, what's my risk? Like, how much do we need to sell in primary sales and in secondary sales for me to break even? Because odds are they don't give a shit about Web3. They're there to like balance the numbers, right? And so when we see brands, I think that when we talk to brands and they're asking like, what do we sell this for? Doing like that break even kind of analysis to see like, well, if we sell this much, then we'll cover our cost. If not, then we need to really push to get this amount in secondary transactions to help cover that. Or if you get like a very forward-looking brand and a very generous CFO who's like, it doesn't really matter, like we just want to do this, and then hopefully we'll make it up in the revenue over time. I think that's where it all comes in, and again, like the reason I bring it up is because like I think a lot of companies when they're doing these, right? Like I'm sure Nike and Adidas and a lot of these, like even like on the sneakers, like the sneaker side with Nike, like I guarantee that they did some math to figure out from like a manufacturing and production standpoint, if we want to, make these as physical shoes one day, like what is going to be our overhead that we need to cover in order to like make this there, because, they've done $1.3 billion in secondary transaction, $185 million in revenue. And I can tell you right now, like the margins on NFT revenue is high. And so they're definitely, I would say that if any of these companies aren't looking at it from like a revenue generation standpoint, like, or if you think that they're not, like you're going to be sadly mistaken. Companies are here to make money. So I think when they start thinking about how to price these, that's going to be it. But again, it's like it comes back into like, are you offering something like at high cost, low volume, right? Or high volume. And I think up until now, it's been technologically prohibitive to provide the high value or the high volume type of thing, because chain speed, minting costs, transfer costs, all of these kind of fees and things came in there. But if we look at post ETH Ethereum merge, which is something that I think that we should dig into at some point, because I like conceptually understand what's going on, but like really the nuancy stuff is there. But like even looking at wallets, custodial wallets being able to support more, more different type of chains that have lower transaction fee cost, I think that this will start to shift where companies are going to feel fine and consumers will feel fine purchasing something for like $5, right? In NFT land, will be okay. I do think though that we're still like 6 months off on that, because again, it comes down, like we should talk about this more, like why there isn't like a better wallet solution, like a better consolidated wallet solution. I was talking to maybe it was Josh or someone the other day. I was like, imagine when like the Apple Wallet, like on your phone, like when they start supporting NFTs, and I can just like.
Yeah, NFTs are hard in a wallet. Like I built.
Do this, and I could just like pull up my NFTs like this easily, and like do my ticket.
Yeah, I've been involved in building a wallet app before, and it's actually really difficult right now, and it's mostly because of all the different chains and getting them in. You can do it if you want to. For some reason, NFTs are really hard to track in a wallet. Like, I don't know what the biggest problem is, but like MetaMask went through like almost a year before they could figure it out. So there's something in there that I'm missing on why it's so hard to do an NFT in your wallet. But
no idea. I mean, yeah, because we're looking at. I mean, like, so one of our, one of our partners, Wire, is going to be supporting NFTs here in the future too, and like. They have a custodial wallet solution. I would argue that they are maybe some of the best wallet architects in the world, and that's still taking them time to figure it out. So yeah, definitely don't want to understate that, and especially if you're doing it from like a non-regulated ecosystem point of view. And what I'm trying to say is that, like, I feel like the Dapper wallet experience is super, super clean, but within the context of Top Shot, you're still like in a very controlled experience, right? So you don't really know what's going there, but as soon as you're like, we're going to support all of these different chains, then it really opens up the door, I think, to like infinite complexity.
Oh yeah, because they have to basically scrape every chain every time it gets connected. That
right.
Really takes a lot of power to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what is like what are the advancements you'd like to see in wallets in the future? Like what's Wire doing, or what's kind of, you said maybe in 6 months, what are the big changes that need to be, or the big advancements that need to be coming?
I mean, I think that one of like, there's going to be a consolidation effort at some point, right? Like you can't have 500 different wallet providers. Just like as when you go to check out on Amazon, there's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and I don't know, maybe another one that I can't even remember. But like, you see what happened in the credit card industry, right? Like, when you're doing like this type of work, I think there's going to be a massive consolidation around it. So, what I want to see, especially in the coming near term for wallets, is reducing the friction to sign up and to access. I think NFTs is the big one, and like the backside of that though is that one of like the big pushes for having NFTs, especially if you talk about IRL or in real life experiences, is that the process of actually validating that someone has a NFT within their wallet is every time that it's happened to me, like we're at a conference or something, it's like you have the NFT, you get to come in. Like all they do is just, you just hold up your phone and they're like, do they have the NFT? And they just look at it and they're like, all right, cool, come in. Like what? Like if you expect this to work at scale anywhere when you're talking about like venues, concerts, baseball games, football games, soccer games, wherever that might be, that if what I would love to see from a wallet's provider is someone that provides both sides of that solution, right? Someone that provides the custodial wallet for end users, but then also provides like a validation application that's separate from that the guy standing at the ticket booth can sit there and like, scan my NFT and then immediately, within a second verify that I actually am that owner of it. And when that happens, I think that's when like the big unlock's going to happen for wallets, and really whoever does that first is going to really take the thing by storm. In my opinion, I think there's a lot of other things that they can do, but that's like the big pain point that we've seen from people adopting it, is that there's no super easy way to just validate this at the door.
I would love to see that, and coming off my experience in my past life, I would love to see near field communication, which is on your phone, which is a type of similar to RFID, being linked into your wallet to verify stuff like that, where all you have to do is go in, tap your phone, and away you go. They don't even have to have anyone look at it, because your phone can do that. Your phone can see your NFTs. You can get an app that can connect the two in, and all you'd have to do is go in and tap it, and away you're going. Like,
all right.
I would love to see that, and what you're talking about on there would. I'm sure there's nuances, and I'm sure it's not as easy as just doing it. But damn it, just do it. Like, get that shit out there. Like, we have everything there. The phones we have nowadays are more powerful than the computer I had 5 years ago. Like, we can do this stuff. Let's just do it.
Yeah, that would be a big one.
Yeah. I would love to see. I would love to see people be able to sign up for a wallet. Obviously, you hear this all the time. I would love to have someone sign up for a wallet and just make it easier. Like, and if, whether that's custodial or not, but still have security where they're not freaking out that they're going to lose all their stuff because someone's going to scam them.
Right.
Like, I don't know how to do that any better than it's been done, but I think until we can get to a point where we can make it not just easier, but easier while still keeping security, I think once somebody figures out what needs to be done with that, I think it'll take off.
I mean, like, the other interesting, like, design problem too, if you think about it, is that, when we're talking about a wallet, right? You're talking about basically like a single sign-on, or like a central identity that you have that you use across multiple platforms to either authenticate or to interact with. And really, right now, the only thing that you do that with, truly, is, like, I feel like your email address, right? So authenticate with Google, or I mean, like, Facebook. And, like, that's the two, I would say, most prevalent, like, sign up or log in with, like, one of these two. So if you think about that, and this idea that, like, what we want wallets to be is a single sign-on solution that you'll use across multiple sites. If we look back at history and say, well, what are the two big ones right now? It's Facebook and Google. Both of those have primary functionality beyond just as a single sign-on thing, right? So I think that saying that, like, a wallet will do this, like, it's even a better thought exercise to say, well, what else could you build into a wallet beyond just holding your crypto and being a sign-on, and, like, what else would be valuable within that, and kind of mimic that, like, email / Facebook / whatever other login that I'm not thinking of right now, and that be the better route to take. Therefore, you kind of, if you did that, I think that there's so many wallets right now, like, like MetaMask and like the Phantom wallet, like, all of these wallets, like, they all do the same thing. So, like, I think if you're a wallet provider and you built deeper functionality beyond that, whereas more of, like, it's not just the wallet, it is a onboarding, offboarding, it is a, I don't know, someone should
digital identity verification.
It's a digital identity, yeah. It's like it's a news hub. It, like, pulls in this or that, or, like, shows you your own trends and data and stuff back. So it's like, the wallet, quote unquote, wallet part is very small. But that stickiness of the additional features is what, like, keeps you on it, right? And, like, makes you feel okay on signing in of all of these things. Boom.
Yeah,
$1 billion idea, baby. You heard it here first.
I wonder if that starts getting into something like the unstoppable domain thing, where, they want to use it not as just a domain, but they want it to be a personal identifier across every browser on every device that doesn't need to require a certain blockchain like MetaMask with Ethereum and Binance and those to operate. And so, going back to your question, I know we're probably over time, but going back to your question of what we'd like to see in a wallet, maybe I would like to see no wallets. I would guess I would like to see. I mean, not going as far as the whole, put the chip in my head and people can track me everywhere. But you know what? I mean, why not have my phone have a digital identifier on there that I use for everything, even if I go in and I tap it somewhere? Like,
Yeah.
why aren't we doing that? Is that because of security or because people don't want us to be there? I don't know, but I guess actually one thing I would love to see is just no wallet, just a digital identifier that controls and allows me to sign into everything I ever want in a super secure, immutable way where a government or a company can't say, no, you're not allowed.
Right. Sure. Yeah. No, I agree.
Would love that. Would love
I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, I think that concludes it for this week. Thanks for stopping by. The old chat with the lads. Love this.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. And I will
Yeah, this was good.
see you boys in 2 weeks.
You got it.